So this is a digital piece I recently completed. I've titled it When I Was 7, and I'm going to take you through a brief walkthrough of my general art making process to follow along with the speed paint video that I've prepared. And then I'll share some overall thoughts about my relationship with art at the end. So I start with some basic imagery that really inspires me. I recently returned to BC after a couple years of living in Montreal, and the scenery here has really been such an influence on my life and my mental health. I treat each of my art pieces as a visual journal entry of my life, so things that get stuck in my head, emotions, memories that have been coming back, and pieces of different media I've been consuming can all be a part of what goes into each piece. Here, you'll see me beginning to draw some tiger lilies. A Korean singer I love recently got these tattoos of tiger lilies on his arm, and in the Korean birth flower chart they actually stand for the longing of love. And to go with that theme, he had the words, "Please love me," tattooed along with those flowers. And I just thought that was so incredibly beautiful to get something so tender and vulnerable tattooed on yourself, especially as someone who lives in the public eye. He got these tattoos months ago, but they've stayed in my head until now. And this little snake, he popped up very late into the process. I think the piece was beginning to look somewhat biblical or holy, or maybe excessively Greek and Roman, which led me to introduce a snake lurking in the vines. Because in everything beautiful, I think there's some sort of ugliness or looming darkness, but we shouldn't be afraid of it, I think. I recently read a book called Damien by Hermann Hesse, which starts off early in its writings with the quote, "It was the first rent in the holy image of my father. It was the first fissure in the columns that had upheld my childhood, which every individual must destroy before he can become himself." And I thought that was really compelling, since I've really started to realize that growing up is something I've maybe put off for too long now, and it seems like there's no going back sometimes. This concept was essentially the base foundation of this piece, which was growing up. I found out over the years that the way I work in art is basically a perfect reflection of how I live my life. Sometimes chasing perfection to the point where it becomes neurotic, and other times not even planning anything and entering with a false sense of confidence and completely winging everything, hoping that it turns out okay. But art is also incredibly humbling in that way, because there's no guarantee if that one brushstroke or move you make will be a good one, and life is exactly like that too. If you're too arrogant, you'll never be true. I've pondered and poked at the idea of why I make art and why I'm so drawn to it. I've realized there's no specific message, no perfect theme or concept. The art I make isn't so grand as to have a political opinion or to explore something greater than myself. It's just a very personal and sacred diary, essentially. I kind of feel like a parent that's realized that I'm just going to have to let my child be perceived however and let them become their own person. I think art is a perfect way to describe life. We can try to express ourselves in specific ways, but not everyone's going to get it, and that's actually completely okay, and nothing to be disappointed or ashamed of.